Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about codependency. I've done many videos on this in the past. Codependency, love addiction, attachment trauma, the wounded empath, the list goes on, but it's all kind of clumped in the same place right now. And there's one phrase I say to people when clients come to me and say, am I codependent? I give them about 10 traits, which I will describe in this video. I ask them one question that has to do with one phrase, and then I give them 2 ways to heal this. I'm going to give that to you now. Watch this video. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're new, please click the little subscribe button and the bell so you receive notifications when I release new videos. And if you've been with me for a while, as usual, thank you so much and welcome back. We're going to dive right in. So what the heck is codependency? If you already know, cool. We're just going to go one step further. It is basically a personality way of being, right? It's this coping mechanism, this behavioral pattern that we attach to deal with emotional trauma in childhood. What's trauma? Trauma is a negative emotional experience that never had resolve. So when we don't have emotional resolve as kids, we create ways to cope with that since we don't really know how to deal with our emotion. And what that often looks like is a dependency when we don't feel like we've been emotionally mirrored, when we don't feel like we've been emotionally validated, when we don't feel a consistent attachment where we feel safe, where we have a sense of self because our identity has been integrated and anchored within us, when we don't have that just sense of emotional security, certainty, stability, we can become codependent. That means, here's the phrase, I depend on someone who's not dependable. Now let me explain this. I say this when anyone comes to me and they say, I think I'm codependent. I go, are you depending on someone that's not dependable? 99% of the time people will be like, what does it mean? And then when I explain it, they say, oh shit, yes, I am, okay? And so I'll tell you why we do this, but this is what it looks like. When you're codependent, you're probably a people pleaser, a perfectionist, you're unattached to your own emotions or unaware of them. You put everyone else's needs first. You don't even know what your needs are. You kind of neglect them. You feel low self-esteem. You feel an uncertain identity. You definitely have jealousy and insecurity triggers. You feel like you need to be in a relationship to feel good or good enough. You feel guilty when the focus is on you. And there's a million more, but that's the 10 that I want to just talk about right now. Now, what does that mean? That means I am obviously looking outside of myself for a sense of security, safety, worthiness, and maybe self. Scary, right? But when we don't have it in our original foundation, whether we had issues in school, we were bullied, we had socialization traumas, or we had at-home traumas, emotional traumas, events, whatever it was that didn't get resolved, we're still looking for that resolve out there. Since we didn't get it in here and we don't know how to get it in here, we look for it out there. We look for it in powerful partners who are secure and confident. We look for it in societal idealistic looks or jobs or things like that because we think it'll give us the feeling that we're looking for. But oftentimes it really does the opposite because when we're focused externally, we're not focused on the wise guide inside, which means we're not focused on our heart center. We're focused on something that is going to mask these inner child wounds that we've never healed. We also think that someone else is going to heal them for us, and we think by healing them, we'll get to feel healed too. It doesn't work that way. And the reason we do that is we feel so much shame about making things about us because we're afraid of ourselves because we don't think we're enough, because we put so much of ourselves in the shadow and project it onto others because it was never mirrored back to us. So we do that so it can be mirrored. I'm going to give my power away so then they feel powerful, so then I feel powerful, so then it's mirrored. So backwards, isn't it? So let me back up for a second. Why do we depend on undependable people? Well, because in childhood, we were depending on someone to give us emotional security and it didn't work. We were depending on someone to make us feel secure and safe. It didn't work. So our beginnings were depending on undependables. So that's all we know. We don't realize that we can be the thing that we're looking for, and we don't want to, because one of the main issues with codependency is a massive fear of loneliness and being alone. And I'm going to explain that really quickly. We're afraid of being alone because we're going to feel lonely because we've not connected or integrated our inner child, because we have depended on false idols our whole lives, parents who are emotionally wounded or not stable or whatever, partners who have done things. And so we're afraid that if we don't need someone, we'll be alone. So we'll make sure we're needy. Even if the neediness attracts someone who's undependable, because at least it's someone and we're not alone. Take that in. Oof, right? At least it's someone. At least it's a body. At least I'm not alone. But what's interesting about that loneliness is once we do the inner child work and the shadow work and we reclaim all the parts of ourselves that we let go of really, really young, because we thought those things were the reasons why we weren't getting our needs met, accepted, loved, and feeling worthy, we start to realize that the reason I don't feel like I'm enough is because half of myself is in the shadow. And the other half I'm projecting onto someone else. So what's left for me? This void space, this shame that comes up that says, you don't deserve to have the focus on you. In fact, if you have the focus on you, you're going to feel bad because there's something wrong with you or not enough about you. But those are all lies. So we'd rather depend on someone who's undependable. And what does that get us? Instability, what we're used to. What does it also get us? A love addiction. What does that look like? Think about someone who is cutting themselves off from drugs or alcohol. There are withdrawal symptoms. Why are there withdrawal symptoms? Because the reason they were doing the drug was to cover up the emotions they never dealt with. So all those emotions now come to the surface. What most people do in a love addiction is now I don't have that person to anchor my worth to or my security to or whatever it is to, identity to sometimes. So now I'm with my own self with all this shit that I really needed that person to get rid of for me or mask for me. And what I say is when you do that inner child work, it's about relating to these issues totally differently. When you sit in that loneliness, I want you to ask yourself a list. What did that person do for me so I didn't have to feel these feelings? The answer is usually nothing, but you're going to make up the excuse so that you can keep the person. So write the list. Then write the list, what would I need to become to be that for myself? That's the scary thing because you don't want to focus on you because you have the shame that comes forward when anything's about you or your needs. In fact, the uncertain identity can be even more confusing and worse than that because you don't know what you want or need. Because you've decided that whatever I want or need, I don't deserve, so I'm not going to want it. So, the way we stop depending on undependable people is by realizing why we're doing that. Obviously, an inner child wound or trauma. Understanding how I can get over this or through this. Understanding that I'm going to have withdrawal symptoms. And what I need to do is focus entirely on myself. I'm bettering my health. I'm bettering my wealth. I'm bettering myself, my true self, so that I can live as my higher self and connect with a higher source, not a false idol that is a wounded human who's emotionally unenlightened, right? Emotionally unintelligent humans that we depend on. Really, for me, the biggest process of healing is not only self-care and self-love regimen every day, even when you don't want to. It's called counterintuitive. You got to do the counterintuitive thing. I want to just call them and put the Band-Aid back on, but what I'm going to do is actually heal the wound so I don't need the Band-Aid. I'm going to go to the inner child. I'm going to acknowledge her or him in the pain and ask what's so scary and ask it to come with me while I do my self-care. Come with me while I try to love myself. Come with me while I build my business, while I build my friend circle, while I find support that's actually dependable, maybe for the first time. And when we do that and walk through the fire of those withdrawal symptoms, guess what happens? They start to lessen because you're filling it with you, not with something that's just going to be ripped off again. And then you have that inconsistency. You don't trust yourself again because you've just gone back to a pattern that doesn't ever work. Self-trust needs to be built at the core of codependency healing. We need to start trusting depending on us and God or source, whatever it is for you. Because when you start to love yourself in the way that you're always meant to, but maybe were never allowed to, you start to be unconditional with yourself. And you start to do the inner child work and the shadow work. What starts to happen is you start to align with the truth of you, which then also aligns with the universe. It's the same energy. It's co-creation. You start to notice synchronicities, alignments, desires are popping up, owning yourself. You start to notice that things are serving you rather than you leaving yourself to serve others all the time. We don't need to change ourselves to fit somewhere or belong. We need to belong to ourselves, and then the things that we belong to show up, right? So, when we love ourselves, the universe can reflect the truth of who we are. When we love ourselves, we won't ever be alone because we're with ourselves. We've self-partnered. I can't even tell you the magic that comes from doing the inner child contact. The first time we do it, usually every client's like, holy shit, I didn't know that's what I had to do, right? We're not taught this stuff in school, but we need to be. We need to heal our inner child so that we stop looking for a parent in another to do it for us. We need to realize that reclaiming our power and being empowered means I'm coming home to self in a way that I don't even think I'm capable of. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go inside and ask my little one to show up and hold them when they're feeling scared, not go out there and look for someone to hold them for me, right? Not look for something to numb the feeling, but allow the feeling to come forward and realize it's not scary. The only thing scary about this work is the fear, the false evidence appearing real. So if you're wanting to dive into this, please check out Emotional Rehab. We are open for enrollment right now. Also, shadow work will be launching early 2021. If you want to get on the wait list and hear about it, that'll be below too. I love you guys so much. I'm sending you so much love and light always. Please share and subscribe to anyone you think would need this message, and I will see you soon.